All right, good morning. On with you a little bit earlier today because our 49ers Falcons preview is up. And that means that the question is, will the 49ers beat the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday afternoon on the East Coast? Sunday morning for those of you on the West Coast. This is the early body clock start for fans, not for the 49ers, who have already acclimated to Eastern time, staying at the Greenbrier in West Virginia all week. So they should be ready to go for Atlanta. They'll fly out today after practice. It's probably just a little bit over an hour from West Virginia down to Atlanta, maybe a tiny bit more, and they're on Eastern time. So they'll be there early in Atlanta too. They'll have all Saturday to pass with a walkthrough and then the game on Sunday. So here you go. The 49ers coming into this game with a winning record, 3-2 against the Falcons, who are 2-3. If you want to check out this preview, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this into the chat section. It's going to be in the comment section later on, and it's already in the description. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe to The Athletic. Take a look at the preview, our predictions, 10 observations, a lot of charts, good stuff is already there. Obviously, we'll talk about much of it on this video as we go through some of the keys to the game for the 49ers before we answer the question right now on the screen. Will the 49ers beat the Falcons? They are currently about 5.5-point favorites. Key number one, the offense must perpetuate its larger contribution. Last week, the 49ers were leaking a little bit of oil defensively. They might be leaking a bit more oil defensively this week because I don't think that Nick Bosa will play. We're going to get a firm injury prognosis on him today when the injury report comes out after 49ers practice. But, either way, you're missing interior defensive linemen. Atlanta is the number 2 rushing attack in all football. I know that they're missing Cordarrelle Patterson, but the equation here suggests that the 49ers aren't quite in tip-top shape defensively. We already saw a bit of that early in the second half last week, and the offense is going to have to play its complementary role. The good news for the 49ers is that the offense has already delivered a larger contribution, and that was last week. Just take this in the piece that I wrote today. We talked about Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's take a look at some of his statistics over the past 3 games, which have been his 3 starts this year. The EPA per play for Jimmy Garoppolo. This is the be-all, end-all, the efficiency, right? So this is a stat. Somebody on one of the comment sections was like, EPA is not a quarterback stat. It's like, what are you talking about? It is the quarterback stat. And it's not only the quarterback stat, it's a stat that measures quarterback, play caller, and playmaker cohesion. So football is a team sport. It measures efficiency throughout the entire offense, right, on a team, and then defense if you want to measure defensive EPA. And a quarterback is going to be an indispensable part of that efficiency equation because we're always measuring a quarterback through how well he performs within the parameters of an offense. There is no quarterback that can operate without the parameters of an offense. Even Patrick Mahomes fell apart in the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers a couple years ago without an offensive line. So Garoppolo, within the parameters of the 49ers offense, when he first started again against Denver 3 weeks ago, number 31 in EPA per play. They were not running an efficient ship. Negative 0.31 points, expected points per play. They were losing points per play. And, the safety obviously had a lot to do with that. The interception had a ton to do with that. It just wasn't a good outing for Jimmy Garoppolo. Moving forward, though, he started knocking off the rust against the Rams the week after that. Plus 0.411. Major reversal. 7/10 of a point reversal between Denver and the Rams. And Garoppolo went from number 31 in the league, ranked against Denver in week 3, to number 2 in week 4. And then week 5, even more efficient against Carolina, from 0.411 to 0.587. He was adding over half a point expected point per play. And that's the kind of efficiency that you need. If you combine week 4 and 5, the EPA per play has been number 1 in football for Jimmy Garoppolo. So the 49ers need the offense to perpetuate the larger contribution that started with Jimmy Garoppolo being sharper and the entire offensive unit being more cohesive. All right, we're going to go back up here to the top, and now we're going to talk about key number 2, which is neutralizing Grady Jarrett. Now, Grady Jarrett's one of the best defensive tackles in football. In 2019, Grady Jarrett had 6 pressures against the 49ers, and everybody's going to talk about Julio Jones in that game, and Julio was a monster against the 49ers in 2019. But if Grady Jarrett doesn't register 6 pressures on Jimmy Garoppolo working primarily against right guard in that 2019 season, the Falcons, even with how good Julio was, would not have won. They would not have pulled the upset. Case in point, 2021, 49ers favored over the Falcons again. And we saw 2 pressures from Grady Jarrett, only 2, right? A third of the amount that he posted in 2019. Needless to say, the game went differently. The 49ers beat the Falcons in 2021, and they beat them handily. You see, the 49ers have a better roster than Atlanta. Even when the 49ers are injured here, I think they're better on the defensive front than the Falcons are. Their overall defense is obviously better, and they have more offensive playmakers, plus their QB, Jimmy Garoppolo, is better than Marcus Mariota. So you have just an overall, advantage for the 49ers in the talent department. The one way that Atlanta can really neutralize this is because they have one better player on the defensive interior than the 49ers might have on their offensive line, right? Especially with Trent Williams out, and Williams wouldn't even block Grady Jarrett. So Grady Jarrett detonates either right guard, center, or left guard, and that's going to be a combination of Brunskill and Burford at right guard, Jake Brendel, and Aaron Banks. So those are all, newish positions, newish players at those positions for the 49ers. If Jarrett can detonate either one of those or all 3 of those positions with a lot of pressure, some sacks, all of a sudden he could tip this game into Atlanta's favor. This is a player that you have to neutralize if you're the 49ers. And I'm excited to see who Jarrett rushes against. It's going to be the biggest test so far for some of these guys. I know Aaron Donald obviously was a really big test, but the 49ers in that game against the Rams had, they schemed so well around it, right? Garoppolo helped. Shanahan helped. It was a quick release game. The 49ers were able to take Aaron Donald's strengths, use them against him, right? He fires off the ball so quickly. They got him firing the wrong way. I think in this game, the Falcons, they're going to try to take away some of the quick release stuff. And they know the 49ers are still on their 3rd string left tackle in Jalen Moore. And Lorenzo Carter, Taquan Graham, the edge rushers for the Falcons, they're going to be trying to work on that matchup. And they think that they may have an advantage in that matchup. So the Atlanta back end of this defense, especially the way they got roasted by the 49ers last year, A.J. Terrell getting his mouth guard knocked out by Deebo Samuel. There was a lot, right? The 49ers won that yak battle. Garoppolo delivered. The yak happened. I think Atlanta is going to try to snuff that out. Tiger coverage, whatever they need to do. They're going to force the 49ers to beat them in a similar fashion to how the 49ers had to beat the Carolina Panthers. And Garoppolo stepped up into the face of blitzes, into the face of tight coverage in that game, and got it done. Because if the Falcons do that, they buy Grady Jarrett with their coverage. They buy Grady Jarrett time to win up front. And that's going to make the 49ers offensive line, some of these relatively unproven guys up front, it's going to make them have to step up and win some battles against Grady Jarrett. They're going to have to find a way to neutralize him, because I'll tell you what, your 3rd string left tackle can lose a little bit, especially with Garoppolo and his quick release at quarterback. And Jimmy could still get the ball off, just like he did last week against the Carolina Panthers with Jalen Moore getting beat by Brian Burns and, a free rusher on the other side. But if Grady Jarrett is beating you in less than 2.5 seconds, less than 2 seconds up the middle, there's nothing any quarterback can do, right? Interior pressure is the kryptonite for any offense. So the 49ers must stop Grady Jarrett. Other side of the ball, man up against the Atlanta run, even shorthanded. This is big. The Falcons pound the rock. The Falcons, in fact, they run more often than the 49ers do. The only team that runs more often than expectation than the Atlanta Falcons is the really boring one that you saw last night on TV, the Chicago Bears, who lost to Washington. So Atlanta's going to come. They're going to try to dictate their style of play. They have a good run-blocking offensive line. They can also pass protect. I like Atlanta's O-line. You got Jake Matthews at left tackle, Caleb McGarry at right tackle, Drew Dahlman at center, the Stanford product. He's actually Chris Dahlman's son. Chris Dahlman was the former 49ers center. So Dahlman, he's a top 10 run-blocking center in the league. He knows scheme. He's going to be anchoring an offensive line that can create room for a committee of running backs. Now, the Falcons don't have Cordarrelle Patterson. He's on injured reserve. But if you go through the depth chart for the Falcons at the running back position, they've got Tyler Algier, Caleb Huntley, Avery Williams. They could, I mean, Kyle Pitts is going to be back for this game. He's a tight end who can also play receiver, who can also go and block. I mean, they have a multiple offense. They've got a little bit of the positionless skill position dynamic going. My point is that under coach Arthur Smith, who's in his second year for Atlanta, this is a dynamic Falcons rushing attack. You don't know which way they're going to come from. And it's going to be important for the 49ers to man up. The 49ers, by the way, they're number one in the NFL in run defense. They're getting up 3.0 per carry. Next best team is 3.4. There's a big gap. But a lot of those stats were accumulated with Kinlaw in, with Eric Armstead in, with Nick Bosa in. And there's a really good chance that all three of these guys miss this game. So for the 49ers, you got to look at Kevin Givens. You may have to look at your new pickup, T.Y. McGill. You may have to, Kerry Hyder probably going to play outside now. He played a couple games inside, but back outside if Nick Bosa can't play in this one. So you look at Akeem Spence, who just got promoted to the 53-man roster. There's so many key matchups on the interior in this game if the Falcons do indeed try to pound the rock, that the 49ers have to at least hold serve in with second string type players. And I know Givens would start for a lot of other teams, but still, it's not your first string if you're the 49ers. And you have to hold serve in these matchups so Atlanta can't just grab control of game flow by pounding the rock over and over and over again. You have to slow the run enough to earn the right for Charles Omenihu, Sansa Mebucom, Drake Jackson, these guys to rush the passer. Because if it's 2nd and 3 all day, if it's 3rd and 2 all day, then the 49ers aren't going to be able to pin their ears back and rush the passer. And this is even more important without Nick Bosa on the field. You're going to have to set the table for your rushers. Because if you set the table for your rushers, you can get the key 4, which is capitalize on Marcus Mariota's struggles. This guy's holding on to the football too long. I don't think he's had a good connection with his receivers downfield. Kyle Pitts obviously has missed time. We're going to see Kyle Pitts in all likelihood on Sunday. But Mariota's snap to release time is over 3 seconds. He's taken 12 sacks, even though the Falcons are number 3 in pass block win rate. So they're blocking well, but their quarterback is still getting sacked. And you look at the time to release and it's really slow. And you're like, oh, he's not processing quickly. Mariota can obviously run, so you got to be careful with that. You have to contain him on these passing plays. But to me, the Falcons have that number 2 run game in the league. You stop the run and you force Mariota to beat you. And so far, Mariota hasn't been good enough to do that this season, especially against the defense like the 49ers. Now, the 49ers will be trying to replace Emmanuel Mosley. We'll see what they do there because I don't expect Jason Verrett to be back. This game's on turf, right? It's not on natural grass. So, at that position, the 49ers probably rotated through some of the young guys. If nobody works, you got Dante Johnson. We might see an elevation for him in this game. So maybe Atlanta starts to try to target that side of the field. If I'm the Falcons, I would do that just to see what the 49ers have. But that's the point of this game. It's going to be a good trying grounds for the 49ers, right? The Chiefs come next week. That's huge. And I think a lot of the 49ers players that are out are gunning for returns against the Chiefs. So this Falcons game, the 49ers are going to have to win on a little bit of depth. And if that depth can prove itself and show that it can pave the way to an NFL victory on Sunday, then that's going to build up a lot of confidence for the 49ers. Now, that being said, the 49ers cannot look ahead to the Chiefs. If you do that in the National Football League, you'll lose to whoever you're playing in the current week. So as analysts, we can look forward to the 49ers Chiefs game. We can also say, oh my God, that Bills Chiefs game this weekend is going to be a lot of fun. But the 49ers need to focus on the Falcons because the Falcons have been pesky this year. They fought this year. I think that they still obviously believe in their coach, Arthur Smith. It's still early in his tenure. So Atlanta, this is going to be more of a dogfight than Carolina was. I predicted the 49ers would win by 3 touchdowns at Carolina. They won by 3 touchdowns at Carolina. I'm not going to predict that this time. And I'm still not going to give a spoiler. I'm not telling you who I think is going to win for another couple minutes because we're not done with our keys. Key number 5, keep an eye on Richie Grant. That is the Atlanta safety who makes a heck of a lot of plays. He's near the line of scrimmage a lot. He could play back in coverage. He has an interception this year. Last week I said, look out because Jeremy Chin, Xavier Woods, neither of those 2 guys may play. Chin was obviously on IR since the start of the week. And the 49ers need to capitalize on that. And they did. And I said, hey, look out for J.C. Horn. He's a good corner. They need to play that one with, some aggressiveness, but also with some risk aversion. And they did that exactly right. And when Garoppolo hit Kittle there, in between Justin Burris and J.C. Horn. Well, same kind of idea here. You have to keep an eye on where Richie Grant, the safety for the Falcons, is at all times. If you do that well, then you won't turn it over. Garoppolo's interception rate only 0.9%. Jimmy Garoppolo has never gone 3 straight games in his career without throwing an interception. He's currently at 2 straight games without a pick. So if he can go another one without throwing a pick, it will be the first time in Jimmy Garoppolo's career that he's gone 3 without throwing an interception. And his INT rate would be down, at 0.7%? Something elite. Right now it's elite. It's at 0.9%. He's only thrown that one to Jonas Griffith off the deflection against the Denver Broncos. So this is an opportunity for the 49ers to continue playing clean football against an Atlanta defense that, by the way, ranks number 27 in DVOA. The Falcons defensively simply have not been good this season. Offensively, what's been good has been the rushing attack. So you've got to slow as much of the rushing attack as possible, and then you just have to hold serve on defense. You have to do what you do if you're the 49ers against that Atlanta defense, right? You have to see Jimmy Garoppolo continue to run this efficiency train the way he's been running the past 2 weeks. You have to see the 49ers offensive line find a way to neutralize Grady Jarrett. And then you have to let Deebo Samuel get out there, knock out AJ Terrell's mouth guard again. The Falcons are not a good tackling team. There is an opportunity here for the 49ers, if they play clean football, to score quite a few points. And that's what it might take if the 49ers defense does let up a few points. So that leads me to the question, will the 49ers beat the Falcons? My answer is yes. Score prediction is coming tomorrow, but I'll give you guys a hint here. I don't think that this one is going to be nearly as big of a blowout as the game against Carolina. I think the 49ers might have to sweat this one. I think no Nick Bosa, if that ends up being the case, and we'll have another update for you a little bit later today. I think no Nick Bosa is, in fact, significant news. All right, hope you enjoyed the show. We will talk to everybody soon. The 49ers and the Falcons. The answer to the question is yes. We'll have more content for you as this weekend progresses. Everybody have a good start to your Friday, and I'll talk to you soon a little bit later on Friday. Like the video, sub to the channel. We'll talk to you all soon.